the election was a victory for good government. It might also be called a victory for propaganda. But that would have been equally true if our opponent had won. But how can you study it? Well, you can begin by investigating the techniques of propaganda. Here, I've listed some of the main ones. Glittering generalities? What is a glittering generality? That headline you were quoting. A victory for good government. Good government is a phrase we use many times during the campaign. We said the mayor stood for good government and promised good government. But it's true, isn't it? What's true? What does good government mean? Is the mayor's idea of good government the same as yours? I see. It's a glittering generality. One of the best. There's another. Yeah. And why do you suppose our opponents chose that phrase? I guess because everybody likes a real American. Right. And they wanted to transfer that liking for a real American to Mr. Butler. A day or so after that poster came out, I said in one of my campaign speeches, our opponent advertises himself as a real American. I say he is unreal, unrealistic. He is a visionary, a theorist, a dreamer. He is so thirsty for public office that like a weary traveler in the desert, he sees a mirage, and he is trying to sell it to you as real. There. Now, what would you call that? That's name-called. Visionary. Theorist. Dreamer. That's right. And those are very polite names. For my collection of propaganda materials, I made a special record of part of one of Mr. Butler's radio speeches. Mayor Cooper asks that he be judged by his performance in office. Very well. Let's ask him who is mayor when the municipal waterworks fell into such a state of disrepair that the whole town was without water for 2 days. Let's ask him. But no, let's not. It might embarrass him. That's what we call card stacking. Cooper was mayor when the pumping station broke down, but it was the man in office before him who allowed it to get into such a rundown condition. And it finally gave way before he could get anything done. And card stacking is choosing some facts and leaving out others and arranging them to suit your purpose. Now, did you see our little campaign movement? Yes, a couple of times. Well, let's look at it again.
Land sakes. The body hardly has time enough. The house to clean, the washing to do, and the men folks to feed. They like their chocolate cake, too. But I do want to take time to tell you that I've known Dick Cooper ever since he was knee-high to a grasshopper. He comes from a good, respectable family, just as honest as the day is long. He knows our town. He's one of them. That's why I'm going to vote for Mayor Cooper. No, my friends are going to vote for him, too.
Recognize the technique? That must be what you call plain folks. That's right. You'll find many versions of the appeal based on the common man, the man of the street, Lord Cabin to President. Now let's look at the rest of the movie. Yes, Mrs. Hamline is voting for Mayor Cooper. Her friends are voting for Mayor Cooper. Your friends are voting for Mayor Cooper. The people know what they want, and what they want is Mayor Cooper. Don't you be left behind. Get on board the victory special. Vote for Mayor Cooper and ride with him to victory. That ending's easy to spot. It's the bandwagon. Yes, propaganda we've been talking about is easy to detect. But a great deal of propaganda is much more hidden, much harder to detect. That's what's bothering me. Even in a small local election, there's so much propaganda. That poster, a real American, uses a transfer device. Does that mean it isn't true? Not necessarily. Evaluating propaganda isn't that simple. Recognizing the technique is one step. Another step is to know the purpose. What is the purpose here? That's easy. To get people to vote for Butler? Yes, to persuade people that Butler is the better man, to move them to vote for him. In short, to sell Mr. Butler to the voters. You'll find that the purpose of most propaganda is to persuade people to believe something, to do something, or to buy something. All right, but it still doesn't answer my question. No. Your next step, and it's a big one, is to get the facts. Well, is he a real American? Howard Butler was born in this country. He obeys its laws. He's a good citizen. Yes, he is a real American. The same can be said for Richard Cooper. So ask yourself whether the facts support the purpose. Do they support the transfer of feeling from real American to Mr. Butler over Mr. Cooper? No, I guess not. Well, that's your fourth step. Weigh the facts against the purpose and the technique. I think I understand. To know whether propaganda is good or not, whether it's true or not, I should know the purpose, recognize the technique, get the facts, and judge the purpose and technique by the facts. But when you want the facts about live political battle, don't come to a campaign manager. I might do it at that, but I will also go and see your opposition. Well, that's all right. Whenever you're tracking down propaganda, get as many different points of view as you can. You know something? What? I think that it might be interesting to make a really serious study of propaganda. I find it interesting, and there's money to study. Here I have just a few of the many books on the subject. You can read them. You can keep your eyes and ears open for little bits of propaganda. And, of course, you can study whole propaganda campaigns. Here are a few on which I've been gathering material. Hitler and Nazi Germany had a campaign of propaganda that ran over many years. Then there's a wealth of propaganda to study on the subject of Russia and communism. There's propaganda to study in our own American elections, national as well as local. And in many of the major issues on which elections often deal. So if I don't learn about propaganda, it won't be because there's no way to study it. That's right, Chuck. Remember the techniques of propaganda and use the procedure we are is a powerful force. So powerful that your study of propaganda is important not only to you, but to me and to the world.
Hi there. Today's episode of On the Issues is going to be about propaganda. So we're going to talk about some propaganda today. In today's information world, everything's propaganda. So I wanted to kind of get ahead of this curve a little bit because I was watching stuff on the news and I'm sitting there and I'm watching it and I'm thinking about how dumb everyone is, and then I realize that I'm sitting there drooling on myself watching it. So I'm like, well, I'm the dumb one. I'm sitting here watching this crap, right? And I'm like, I wonder how many people believe this is real. So I got to tell you guys something about information warfare, what you're seeing on the media and the news and that kind of thing. So some people don't like Donald Trump. You see all the outrage about him. Some people don't like Joe Biden. He's a criminal. Needs to be impeached. Hunter this, Hunter that, all these bad things, right? Okay, first I want to start with all fake, okay? All of it's fake news. You guys can't judge any of these people by what you see on TV, alright? Some of the ones you think are bad might be good. Some of the ones that you think are good might be bad. I don't do that, just so you know. I wait until they do things that are obviously bad. Sometimes they do it themselves in public and they'll admit it. So you can use some of the information you get off the internet to make these decisions. However, it's important that you look at what they do. Make sure that you're right about it, because if you're making judgments about people just based on what the internet says or tells you, it's bad. A lot of people's superheroes, the political superheroes, might end up really working for the other side, okay? Just so you know. Part of the reason Donald Trump is so famous is because the media has relentlessly attacked him all the time, right? And you know what they say, all publicity is good publicity. I like Donald Trump because of his policies. If you deep dive into what he does, that's the magic of Trump, and that's where you get this divide. is you got the media and the propaganda, because it is propaganda. And it's always been propaganda. And propaganda is used by governments in order to keep control and influence. It's advantageous for them to use it, so they do. This is not an outrageous theory, okay? This is not an outrageous theory. And you can go back and watch my fireside chat if you want to talk about conspiracy and the elements to make conspiracy. And that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about conspiracy theories. We're talking about narrative theories, all right? So certain events can happen. They can be factual. And depending on how the context of them are laid out, it can paint one picture or another. In the legalese, we call this painting somebody in a false light. In fact, you've heard Nancy Pelosi talk about it before, and they call it the smear campaign. Now, not just Pelosi does this. They do this on both sides. And a lot of the humor in politics is watching people behind the scenes. They can't tell the truth about something, so they attack each other over something different. So the American people are watching, and none of it makes sense, because you're like, what are they doing? This doesn't make sense. Well, it's because they're not being upfront with you guys, because they don't want you guys to know how much money they're stealing or how much they're benefiting other places instead of you. They're not putting the priorities that you guys need and care about first. They're putting other things first. So they use propaganda to keep you off of the trail. That is bad. It's technically treason if you want to get down to it. So that has to be decided. In a free market world, in a free market, the United States, the medias are free companies, so they are profit-based. That's capitalism. They want to make money. Whoever pays them the most money to spread the information, to get the viewers, they will take the money. A lot of you think it's evil and bad, and that the media should not be allowed to lie. I typically agree with you guys on that, but I believe in fair markets, so I, at the same time, have to yield back a little bit on wanting to shut them all down and act like Hitler myself. I believe they can exist. They can have free speech. That's why this platform is here. This platform's here so I can talk directly to you guys. I can be held accountable for the things I say to you, and I'm going to present you with facts based on what I know and the information I've gathered, which I'll be transparent with. There's not going to be any hidden hand when you're dealing with me. I'm above the board, and the things that I will tell you guys, I'll break down and they make sense. Nothing that I tell you guys comes from outer space or the media or anywhere but documents and the people's own mouths and positions. The reason for it, and a lot of times I can point to the money and what they got in exchange for selling you on a position, because some of these people that sound completely outrageous are sounding completely outrageous because that's their job. If you ever watch Congress and you watch and you're like, wow, these people are being loud and obnoxious and I can't believe this person's saying these things that aren't factual. Well, that's how the party gets their propaganda out there, is they'll have these lower level members get on there and spew things that are factually incorrect. That way it goes into the orbit and people hear it, and they hear it enough times to where they might believe it's true. Meanwhile, the higher members of the parties can sit back and just kind of relax, and they don't have to say the crazy things or be held accountable for it. And when it comes time to get rid of somebody, it's one of those disposable lower level pawns. That's how the game is played. So, knowing that, just take everything with a grain of salt. What I'm doing here is I'm trying to take all that down. I'm trying to take it and mainline the information to the people so we can bypass all the corporate interests. All of it derives around the propaganda media. That's who signs the paychecks at the end of the day. It's actually, big pharma and banks and stuff like that, but the propaganda media is part of their trifecta of control, okay? So, Democrats, Republicans, all of you guys, talk to me about positions. Don't assume positions. When they try to start fights between us, stop. Don't fight over. Okay, here's an example. The whole bloodbath thing with Donald Trump. It's the dumbest thing, and the people that argue it are showing people that you don't understand a couple things here. One, bloodbath is an economic term. Blood in the streets, bloodbath. It's been used in the stock markets for years. Is it a proper word to use? I don't know. Maybe. Who's to say, right? He was talking about, the context of what Trump was saying was in the auto business and the country in general, there would be a bloodbath if he loses. Now, understandably, he's going to say, like I'm going to say, if we lose, we're going to be in really bad shape and everything's going to suck. Like in 2020 when I told you guys we're in bad shape, our country's in bad shape. I think many of you remember my speech back from 2020. You may still be able to find it on the internet somewhere. However, they did scrub my YouTube a bunch, but it was in the video voter guide for the state of Washington. And if you go back and listen to it, I warned you of all this impeding stuff. That was me back then being right on the money with you. Same thing in the Senate campaign. Straight up with you guys, right on the money with you. When I say stuff like, you know, there's problems with the elections and stuff, I explain to you guys why. Jay Inslee just passed 3 bills yesterday or today about the elections. Now, am I going to sit here and just assume automatically that he's trying to strengthen his ability to cheat? I'm not going to say that. But when I read the bills and stuff, I can see that they're definitely trying to inflate the mail-in ballots. They're trying to do signature verification things, and a lot of it seems ambiguous to me, but I still don't have the full context. Maybe, I always think like this, maybe the good guys already got a hold of Jay Inslee behind the scene. They're allowing him to keep the mail-in voting, but they're monitoring it to make sure that there's no issues. You know what I mean? Maybe the good guys are actually the ones doing it. I don't know. So I'm going to give our country, our military, the police, the benefit that they are doing their jobs. I'm going to give the Mason County auditors and the rest of the auditors in the state deference to believe they're doing their jobs. But when I see auditors who have ambiguous numbers or numbers that simply cannot exist, I will call them out. I'm going to call them out because I have the math, not because I am seeing things on TV or the pillow guys telling me about lawsuits. This is not what I do, all right? So Republicans, Democrats, I am the news, okay? I am the news. When I say things to you guys, this is factual information that I get from sources that are 100% factual, legitimate, above-the-board sources that are not in any way speculatory, okay? No speculations. What I tell you guys is true. That's the most important thing. I tell you guys all the time. What am I going to do first when I get in there? I don't know, because I don't know how bad it is in there. I'm going to need a lot of advisors to figure out how to clean it up and restructure it. So I'm not going to waste my time out here trying to talk about abortion or any of these other mainstream talking points. I made my videos with my positions on those laws. But at the end of the day, I work for you guys. So what I think should only be opinion based on my competent mind state and how I can deal with decisions and how I will yield deference to the people. That should probably be the most important attribute in any public servant, their ability to yield power to the people. Think about that. So the people that try to keep power away from the people, keep you in the dark, tell you what's going on, probably not the people that you want in charge working for you. It's like if you hire someone to do something for you and you're paying them money to do something and yet they're not telling you what they're doing or how they're doing it. They're like, the job's getting done and I need more money, but you're not really able to audit it or see it or understand it. Well, they're keeping you in that system for nefarious reasons. This is the overall complete system. And then they get you to fight over Republican Democrat issues by pulling at your heartstrings based on whatever channel that you're watching or whatever stream you're being fed into. Part of this, part of the lawsuit that you're hearing about right now in the Supreme Court that has to do with the tech companies being influenced by government comes down to some older case law, right? Well, the argument right now, other than the standing argument, now that here's another thing about the fake news. The fake news came out and said that Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, I think that's her name. If it's not, I apologize. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, they said that she was trying to say that free speech was getting in the way of the government being able to control, being able to censor free speech. That is not what she said, and people are taking it out of context. And if you don't understand what the Supreme Court's saying, you shouldn't take snippets out of it to try to sell your crowd. You guys know who I'm talking to out there. There's a lot of big-time Republican people out there that have media platforms that are spewing this too. That's not what she said. She did not say she worries about the government interfering being ability to interfere with free speech. The argument and the context around what she was saying had to do with the standing of the AGs and their ability to prove that they were somehow harmed. So she was talking about other case law in context to that and how it could be made superfluous. All right? So that was the true legal argument. So when they say that stuff and they spin it, you guys have to make sure that you really understand the context. So it's easy for Dan Bongino to get up there and spew the words because she did say those words. But it was just like when Donald Trump said the bloodbath thing. It's the same exact thing. Don't fall for it on either side. It's bad, okay? Don't do that. Don't do that. Just like I tried to explain to you what she did there, I will always try to explain that kind of stuff to you. And that case right now, the Supreme Court's talking about hearing it, but the only thing that the liberal justices are trying to use as a reason to not hear it is standing. And they're claiming the attorney generals don't have the standing to bring it. But it could be argued in a lot of different ways, and there's a lot of other reasons why they do. If it gets ugly, then I'll bring a case because I have standing based on the 2022 midterm elections here in Washington. And I did have definite media bias. That's why you guys didn't hear about me. And that media bias certainly affected the election, if anything. So if they want to stand behind the fact that Tiffany Smiley beat me by 500,000 votes, the only variable, the only factor was that the media bias and the television bias, that kind of thing. That is election interference. If one candidate is propped up over the others, it's actually equal protection issue. There's a lot of different constitutional reasons that you can those are theories, constitutional theories you could use, such as they created a special class and then they gave one candidate advantages over the other. Who? Well, they say you guys are donating the money, but if you really start looking, you'll see that the money for a long time has been rerouted. The politicians can decide. What you're going to find out, one of the big things about the Hillary Clinton issue and the Clinton Foundation, and I invite you to go watch this Senate hearing a couple years ago, where the bounty hunters came on and talked to Congress about it. But what they had found is Clinton Global Health is an example of it. They were getting money shipped to them overseas. They were getting that money, just like to Haiti, which is now there's no money, but it all went there, but they don't know where it went. Well, I'll tell you where it went. It went and was shipped back to America and given to these politicians in individual small donations. So a lot of the people that they're saying are donating them small amounts, they really aren't. They're robbing charities and NGOs, and they're using like Clinton Global Health and agencies like that to do it. Not propaganda. That's real. I can give you guys the documents and show you this. There's all sorts of money being taken from all these places, and they're not paying taxes on it, and that's the crime. The crime isn't that they're subverting the laws to find ways to legally steal it. The crime is they're not paying taxes on it, and that's the loophole some of these places are using, because the way bounty hunters are paid is they're paid like an insurance company that goes in there and finds out where the state's losing money. That's the only way they can enforce anything against these people. Hard to believe? Well, welcome to the party. That's what I'm trying to change. All this money is being wasted to keep you in the dark and steal your money. Lots of it, all of it. All your struggles are caused by this. So, of course they got to have that propaganda out there to try and divide everyone. So don't listen to it. Republicans, Democrats, I'm on both of your sides. I'm going to be the governor of Washington for the people of Washington. I don't care what TV channel you watch. Watch right here on the Issues with Leon Lawson. That's the best place for you to get information on what's going on. Many of the bills, many of the things they're passing right now, once I'm elected, I can go back through and veto, rewrite, get the language cleared up. It won't be as ambiguous. Arguing about it right now and talking about how bad all of them are, why do that? Why do that? All it does is cause problems and rifts. Maybe I have to work with some of these guys. Maybe these guys want to learn something from me when I get in there and I can explain to them the errors in their ways. Maybe they're separated by the same propaganda machine firing against many of you. So, on the issues, the episode of propaganda that we're on now, I'm about to wrap up. And my biggest point here is do not listen to the fake news. I'm hoping I can bring you guys together. I'm hoping right now that lots of Democrats decided to click on this to laugh at me about propaganda, because a lot of people don't even believe propaganda is real. I was talking to a few folks down at the Walmart, and they were telling me propaganda was a conspiracy theory. And I'm like, don't get me going on the conspiracy theory part, but propaganda used to be taught in the schools back in the 50s. They used to teach kids about how to discern propaganda from information and news. And then they would actually give the kids propaganda in order to build them up for their confidence for the country and get them to serve in the military. So, propaganda is a well-known tool, a well-known war weapon, and all of you guys out there should be aware of it. You can want to live in the fancy Candyland world all you want, but just be aware, there's always going to be people out there that want to sway your opinion. Thank you for watching the videos today. Please like and subscribe if you'd like more content.
I'll let you try my Wu-Tang style.
And use the procedure we have is a powerful force. So powerful that your study of propaganda is important not only to you, but to me.